So, Transalp 650, what's it like to own this bike? What's this bike like? Who's this bike for? Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about Honda Transalp 650 a little bit. We are in city traffic, and this is a place where this bike shines. This is very comfortable bike, and it's really good for touring and long distances because of its construction and weight. I use this bike a lot also on the off-road because I do not have a second bike, more off-road capable bike that I can use to navigate the trails. Today is a really sunny day, and I want to use it just to circle around my local forest trails. This bike is, in one sense, it's quite boring for an average, aggressive rider because it's underpowered. It's a V-twin, so it's pretty smooth. It has some vibrations, but those vibrations are negligible because it's simply comfortable. You can cruise with this bike for kilometers and kilometers or miles and miles without getting sore or getting your butt cheeks to hurt. It's Honda's reliable V-twin platform that is here since 1986. With the introduction of the first Honda XL 600V Transalp, those bikes were really popular back then. They got their glory much later because it turned out that those bikes were extremely reliable. You can take them off-road, you can take them across the continents. Even a lot of people today ride the first generation of Honda Transalp. I would like to own one because I heard the positive things about that bike because it's much lighter than these later generations of Honda Transalp. If you are, as I said, if you are an aggressive rider, this bike will not suit you that well. I ride this bike fast sometimes. I even ride this bike at the paced off-road that is much faster than this bike is designed to be. That's why I get a lot of bottoming out. But you can always upgrade the suspension. For me, I'm not that heavyweight, so I manage to get around that issue. But in the future, I think that I will be upgrading the suspension of this bike if I, and I plan to ride it off-road, so probably that will be the solution for me. Even for, some faster pace, this bike is pretty stable. It can keep it can keep the speed in corners. And also 5-gear gearbox is not really good for me. I wish this bike had 6 gears, but it's just the way that Honda designed them back then. But you feel like you're always missing a gear because at 100 kilometers per hour it's around almost 5,000 RPM. 100 kilometers an hour. Back is at almost 4,500 RPM. But cruising at this speed is really comfortable. There is no vibrations, nothing whatsoever. If we take it to 130, the bike is at almost 6,000 RPM, which makes it a lot less comfortable, but still it's manageable to travel like this. But you'll get a high fuel consumption like this. I mean, you could change the sprockets. You can go with a different sprocket setup. I think that you will be getting something from that. Maybe you could drop the revs by 500, maybe even 1000 revolutions per minute, but you wouldn't change that much. 6th gear would change everything. Suspension is really soft. You can tweak the rear shock just a little bit. It has a preload adjustment, but it's not doing much. But if you compress the spring, you can get somewhere stiffer suspension in the rear. I had to release the spring a little bit because I'm really short, so I have problems with reaching the ground on this motorcycle, especially in the off-road situations. This bike has extremely wide seat, which makes it comfortable, but for a shorter person it's hell. That's why a lot of shorter people avoid this motorcycle. It's manageable for shorter people if you have enough experience. The problem is that Honda Transalp is quite top heavy. This tank sits really high, and if you fill this tank full of gas, you can immediately notice the difference. Once it drops below half of the tank, the bike starts to be quite manageable after. The engine is a peach on this motorcycle. I enjoy this engine so much. I wish it had 10 more horsepower. It would be quite enough for me. I mean, it's enough, depends on if you want to ride it fast. You have to keep it in the high rev range, then it can keep up with some bigger bikes. If you are a skilled rider, you can manage all those things. So this bike is a 2005 year model. It's a carbureted motorcycle. Fuel consumption being carbureted is a little bit higher than on the fuel injected motorcycles. This is the only thing that I do not quite like on this motorcycle. I wish that fuel consumption was a little bit lower. I get around 6 liters per 100 kilometers on average. If I top up this tank, the maximum that I got from this tank was 270 kilometers. It's usually around 240 for this tank. Actually, my fuel gauge is not working very well. Once it drops below half of the tank, it's not showing correctly. It can go all the way to reserve, even below, but it still has some fuel, so it's not quite reliable for me. Okay, here is some dirt finally. Standing position on this motorcycle for someone my height is really good. Maybe I could raise the handlebars a little bit for someone who is taller. I suspect that they would definitely have to have handlebar raisers. Oh, here are my friend's dogs. How are you? Okay. This is my style of road. Sometimes there is a lot of mud on this trail, but let's see today. It's been quite warm for some time. And Honda is geared pretty tall, so when you ride it on the tracks like these, you often need to use lower gears because it's quite fast. I love this engine, I love the way it delivers the power. I just wish that it was fuel injected and it had a little bit of power down in the low range, in the low revs, because when you need to slide the bike a little bit, It delivers the power really smooth, but it doesn't have that punch down below. Wow, this trail is beautiful. Today is a Sunday, so you have to be careful because there could be some people on this trail. So I will try to keep the pace down a little bit. Let's get across here. Oh, it's not deep. Once this tread of this tire gets filled with mud, it doesn't want to pull. Or choose the wrong path here. See how this engine just chucks along? If you hit the nasty stuff harder, then it's a big problem. For this bike. I will definitely have to adjust a rear brake slightly because I do not like the way that this feels in these boots. So I will work on that next. Whoa, the back end slipped too much now. Look at the weather today. It's quite beautiful. Also the view is. I will do an update on my Miras E07 Plus because they are being stripped down slowly and slowly. Let's take this huge hill climb and check out the view. I will try with the first gear. Okay, we are in first. It's a little bit difficult, but Honda can take it. Here we have a little viewport, but it's not that quite beautiful as I imagine. Oh, this is my beauty. She is completely stock, except for the front fender, which I fitted from the Aprilia Pegaso 650. I think it looks a little bit better. The MIV exhaust, which gives this motorcycle quite a nice tune, but I still did not remove the catalytic converter, I will be working on that soon, because there's no point on having catalytic converter with this setup. But soon I will put Amazon exhaust pipes just to see how they perform. So this bike is got around 58,000 kilometers. I had it since it had around 42,000, and most of these kilometers were done off-road. Of course I take a longer distance trip with this bike and this is, after all, the motorcycle that was intended to go, you know, far comfortably. It was not intended to be abused on the off-road, but it can take it. This is quite the machine, you know. I like it. Anyway, 2 sparks per cylinder, 2 cylinders, 647 cubic centimeters. Quite nice. Only about 52 horsepower. Some claim 52, some claim 54. It's quite enough for the off-road, even for traveling, but it doesn't like highway so much. It's not vibrating on the highway, but if you go around 130 kilometers an hour, you are quite in the rev range. You are around 6,000 RPM, and it doesn't sound comfortable cruising at that speed. I mean, you can do it. There's great wind protection, great comfort, and everything else. This bike is quite popular among the travelers, and it's getting old, so that means that it's getting even cheaper. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe this video, and see you on the next one. Bye.